Good afternoon. I'm Karen Waddell, President and CEO of the Lynn Institute. On behalf of all of us at the Lynn Institute, welcome. We're so happy you've joined us, and we're honored that you would spend your time with us today. Of course, we would have loved to have been together in person, but we simply could not justify the risk in our current health environment. Hopefully, we will be back together next year for what has become a very favorite Lynn Institute event. So let's get started. First, we want to have a big thank you to our donors and sponsors. You saw them featured on a pre-event information, but we want to remind you of these organizations and donors who are making this possible today. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the Lynn Institute Board of Directors. Dr. Jill Adler, Wade Brawley, Betsy Brunstetter, Steve Buck, Elizabeth Dalton, Dr. Robert Foreman, Leslie Lynn, Valerie McMurray, Jerry Tubb, Dr. Kersey Winfrey, and Mark Edwards, our chair. In today's brief event, we will provide insights about the Lynn Institute work, introduce you to individuals from partner organizations who work with us to create healthy, hopeful communities, honor our Legacy Award recipients, inspire you with a message from an amazing young man, and share how you can join us as we impact lives and make a difference for vulnerable communities. In 2011, the leadership and board of the Lynn Institute was presented the opportunity to pause and to reset. Our beloved CEO, Oklahoma's pioneer sleep researcher and scientist, Dr. Bill Orr, was retiring. It was time to take a new look at our purpose and our mission. What would the footprint of our organization be moving forward? What legacy would we leave for future generations? As the planning team considered direction and focus, a renewed awareness of an issue that had been present for decades began to emerge. In the shadows of two of Oklahoma's greatest economic engines, the state capital of Oklahoma and the largest university training ground for physicians, allied health professionals, nurses, and dentists, was an area of poor health outcomes, difficult living conditions, and only intermittent opportunities for success. The situation was not new. In fact, what once had been a thriving, successful area had gone steadily downhill for more than half a century. We knew what existed, and we knew there was no plan and no one was being held accountable to help. We believed the work had to be intentional, with a commitment to create a plan and to gather others together to effect positive change. We developed a new purpose for Lynn: to improve the health and lives of vulnerable, underserved populations. And we would begin in Northeast Oklahoma City. We conducted research and interviews. Most importantly, we listened to the residents of Northeast Oklahoma City describe their own health concerns and their own challenges, disparities that exist, lack of access, and the overwhelming desire for equity in health services and in opportunities. Through our research, we found children born in Northeast Oklahoma City today have an 18-year shorter life expectancy than those born in other zip codes in Oklahoma. Rates of diabetes, obesity, hypertension are among the highest in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is among the highest in the nation. 65% of children under 5 are living in poverty. The suicide rate is more than double the rest of the state and the nation. And access, opportunities, and hope were lacking. We took the research, shared it with the world, brought leaders and organizations together to form the Healthy Community Collaborative of Northeast Oklahoma City. Working together, this group has created 10-year objectives and actions to improve the health and the lives of the people, our neighbors and friends living in Northeast Oklahoma City. About the same time, in 2012, a crisis situation came to the forefront in Oklahoma. There were simply not enough families for foster children in our state. There were also other issues surrounding at-risk children, aging out foster kids, and juvenile justice children and their families. So the Lynn Institute, together with other business leaders, formed Count Me In for Kids, a collaborative to bring together everyone, the Oklahoma Department of Human Services, the Oklahoma Department of Juvenile Justice, like-minded nonprofits, educational organizations, agencies, and faith-based organizations, all coming together to work to ensure that every child is loved and has a safe place to live. This collaborative has achieved significant milestones and forged lasting partnerships that are still working to make a difference for Oklahoma's greatest treasure, our children. It has been 9 years since the Lynn Institute pushed that reset button and pivoted our mission. We have helped Northeast health clinics improve A1C scores in diabetics, provided cancer patients with free, comfortable rides to treatment, planted gardens, introduced people to people, introduced groups to groups, and formed long-lasting partnerships and relationships. Since the onset of the pandemic, we have distributed more than 200,000 pounds of fresh food and vegetables and over 4,000 household items. We have hosted health classes and screenings in person and now virtually. We have held community forums and events that offered resources to the public and to our neighbors. Our efforts are not taking place in a foreign country or in another state, but literally within a few miles of our homes. And despite the global health crisis, we are continuing to make a difference, a big difference. Today, our work not only includes Northeast Oklahoma City and Count Me In for Kids, but we are now working with Oklahoma's Native American tribes and other rural and urban areas. A quote I love says, "No one can do everything, but everyone can do something." Collaboration is the cornerstone of what we do. We have a forum, a network where you and others can come together to ensure that neither children nor neighbors are left behind. The Lynn Institute is proud to provide this forum, together with direct programs and services to help the most vulnerable populations. At the heart of our organization is the belief that everyone should have the opportunity not just to survive, but to thrive and live their best possible life in a healthy, hopeful community. While I love talking about our work, I want you now to hear from partner organizations. Some are members of Count Me In for Kids, others are part of the Healthy Community Collaborative in Northeast Oklahoma City. All are worthwhile members and valued partners in our work.
So Count Me In for Kids, those very first days, our primary focus was all about the foster care crisis in our state. We had children who were living in homes or unfortunately had been removed from homes that needed a better solution. And really it was based upon the simple premise that if we had awareness of things that others were doing and if we had a shared commitment that all partners, whether it be nonprofits, the private sector, or governmental agencies, could come together and work to find solutions. It's really simple, but it takes somebody to be in a leadership role to pull that together. So those first few meetings was, as you might have predicted, they were people coming together and kind of in a defensive posture, very much focused on what they did and a little bit concerned about what this new venture might mean. And that was that initial meeting with everybody being very protective. But as trust was built and as we worked together, now 8 years later down the road, we have this sense of collaboration and the commitment to a shared vision. When I think about the work that Lynn has done through the Count Me In for Kids specifically, one of the hallmark events was the introduction of Safe Families. And Safe Families really represented that moment in time of valuing personal accountability, valuing the fact that government doesn't have to be the solution for everything, and generally creating a spirit of partnership.
You know what the Lynn Institute brings into working with the vulnerable populations in Northeast Oklahoma City are three things, I would say. Facts, long-term commitment, and resources. Now with the facts, they assess the areas of need in the community because their research arm has verified the economic state and the high-risk health conditions of many of my neighbors. And then they have made a multiple-year commitment to find solutions to those factors that cause these conditions and help people get through them and hopefully out of them. And finally, resources. Once the Lynn Institute commits to addressing a particular need, they will find those resources somehow, and they work with the people and the entities inside the community to get those resources to those who need them. I would describe the Lynn Institute as the ideal partner because, they regard the community itself as a valuable partner and not just a recipient of the resources they bring to Northeast Oklahoma City. And then they not only do research and analyze data, but they also engage with the people in the community and actually listen to them. The people at Lynn are very caring, very collaborative, and very focused because Lynn will seek out other like-minded partners to help them attack those problems at their source. They're absolutely selfless in pursuing a better quality of life for residents of Northeast Oklahoma City. They're authentic, they are not seeking control, and they genuinely want to help people. So whether it's paid staff or volunteers like myself, Lynn's people are motivated by love for the people and a genuine desire to make things better.
So I'm part of the Healthy Community Collaborative, and what I'm so passionate, what I enjoy about what we do is how we work interdependently with each other. We come from so many various backgrounds, but we bring so much experience and passion to really connect with the needs of the community. I just absolutely love the fact that we meet and we do it consistently, and that we're passionate about how we're collaboratively mitigating some of the health issues and disparities in our community. The networking is just amazing, and it's just awesome what Lynn does. I'm so impressed with not only Lynn being the research, but also bringing the solutions to some of the issues, and how Lynn always remembers the community, especially the fact that oftentimes the community doesn't have an opportunity or see the opportunity to engage in Adventure District and some of the wonderful things that we have here in Northeast Oklahoma City. The fact that Lynn Institute brings that information, brings that interest to the community to sort of mobilize things, it's just wonderful.
I wasn't aware of Lynn Institute in our community until probably about a year ago. And I understand you've been in the community for longer than that. And so when I became aware of it, I was on board all the way. As a matter of fact, you've collaborated with us in our church, and we had a health drive, and that was absolutely wonderful. The people came out and they were beneficial by what you were offering, the screenings that we had, the health screenings that they had, the food distribution that you had, and I believe you guys even had someone test my hearing and my cognitive ability, which was absolutely wonderful. And we heard lots and lots of accolades from the people that participated in it. Not only that, there was another partnering group thing that we did together, which was the zoo and the science museum. Some of those kids had never ever had an opportunity to go to the science museum, most of the time because they couldn't afford it. And so the opportunity, when we passed out the flyers, the kids and their families were so excited and told us, we've never been there, thank you. And thanks to the Lynn Institute for allowing us this opportunity to share what's in our community, but we haven't been able to participate from our community. So it was wonderful. Whenever we've had an opportunity to share and talk, you've listened before you've asked a question, and you listen intently and sincerely to what we had to say, and then you take what we have and you see how you can help us achieve some of the things or some of the dreams and visions that we have for the community. And most of the time, what I'm seeing is we're both on the same page. We both want to see the same thing for the Northeast community. So normally it just substantiates I don't know what word I'm looking for, but we just come together and we have the same ideas for the Northeast community. What that community lacks is resources. Not ideas, but resources, our means to get to the resources. What the Lynn Institute brings to the table is the resources, or the knowledge of the resources, or the referral to the resources that they need to get those things accomplished. And I believe that you celebrate with us any great accomplishments that we make in the Northeast community.
In 2016, the study was complete and Collaborative was formed. And this was kind of exciting for me because I was asked to co-lead it. And it really helped me understand the importance of really wanting to involve the community leaders, as well as the Lynn Institute as an organization. So I was really excited because it was not only putting a group of people together that had like mind, but some that didn't have like mind, and to see how we could figure this out together. So back in 2016, this journey began. What I hoped for when we started the collaborative is really the opportunity to learn more about how we could work together. In Northeast Oklahoma City, probably like many other communities, there are a lot of silos. People really kind of doing their own things. And really, this was set up as an opportunity to where we could do something new and different that in my lifetime I had not seen. Gathering folks together, kind of removing some of the barriers and the silos, and really an opportunity to put all of our eyes and our lens on health disparities as it relates to Northeast Oklahoma City. And what it became was much more than that. Not only were we talking about health, we're talking about the community landscape, we were talking about transportation, and so many other things that are relevant that have a direct effect on health disparities in the community. The difference here with Lynn was they really took the opportunity time to sit and listen to people, to understand what the issues were, the problems were, and put a long-term commitment behind it. And so why that was important to me is because I'm not just thinking about my generation, but I'm thinking about my kids and future generations as well, and what can be put in place, what can be established now that is going to be for generations to come. You know, one of the fantastic things that I love about Lynn and the Healthy Community Collaborative is that they're really putting hands and feet to things within the community. So as we listen to the community, now we've acted upon that. And there have been several things that the community has done. Health screenings, food distributions, helping to spark other organizations and support them and push them forward. So not only just talking about doing something, but Lynn and the collaborative have been putting their feet to the fire and putting action in place. And this is not something that's one-time events. This is something that's ongoing and that's ever changing based on what we're hearing from the community and the needs of the community. If I had one last thing to say about getting involved with the Lynn Institute, you're sitting there and you're thinking, is there something I can do? There's a lot that you can do, whether it be your time, financial support, just your energy, your mindset. Some of us and all of us may be in different places. We can use all of it. For our community to move forward, we need your help. And I would just encourage you to get engaged and get involved.
You know, I think Lynn, and through its leadership, there are certainly a lot of core values that come to the stream. I think the first is to value collaborative space. That above all things, that we certainly come into gatherings together with our own agendas, our own priorities, our own missions, our own obligations, but those can be set aside to find the common good. And I see Lynn and the leadership focusing on the finding of that common good. So I would say that's a core value. The other core value is don't give up, that there are a lot of ways to attack a problem, and sometimes your initial foray may not be the best foray, so you regroup and you find another attack. So collaboration and continuing to seek challenges and never saying quit. Unfortunately, many of us think that the way you evaluate an organization is based upon its budgetary size. And I don't know that's always a truism. I think effectiveness can be gained through a different number of ways, and one of those is to have a respect factor with organizations that can bring resources to play, and you don't have to own those. So my hope for the future is that we continue to attack problems, that we continue to attract new partners. I think our goal is to be smart, and I think by being smart, we can identify difficult problems, and we can bring interested stakeholders with the capacity to address those problems, bring them to bear on an issue, and find creative solutions. Now, we will have to sustain and we will have to be diligent in our own development efforts, but as a resource, I think that we can be that unique, honest broker to bring multiple parties together to address some really hard challenges. So as I conclude my thoughts, the one thing I want to invite you is to take part in this work of Lynn. You can do that through a myriad of ways. Certainly as an organization, we need your resources. We need your generous contribution for us to be effective in convening as we can. But we also know that you can play a role by volunteering or by directing resources that you control to address these very difficult challenges in our community. It takes all of us. It takes all of us working smart. It takes all of us working collaboratively, and it takes all of us with a passion to make our community the best it can be.
We are blessed and honored to serve with each and every one of these individuals, together with the companies, schools, churches, and nonprofits that they represent. I told you earlier today that we were going to inspire you with an amazing young man. It's now time for me to introduce our special guest. Caylin Moore inspires audiences with wisdom from his journey of overcoming insurmountable obstacles to striving to leave the world better than he found it. Caylin Moore is a thought leader. His against all odds journey from the cruel poverty of a gang-ridden Los Angeles community to becoming a Rhodes Scholar is detailed in his acclaimed book, A Dream Too Big, the story of an improbable journey from Compton to Oxford. His story proves that there is no such thing as a dream too big. It's my privilege now to welcome Caylin Moore.
First and foremost, I feel honored to be able to speak to world changers, individuals who are contributing to a better world and looking out for the most vulnerable amongst us through their work, deed, and financial contributions. My name is Caylin Lewis Moore, and I grew up in the Los Angeles, Compton, Carson, and Watts area. I'm here today to speak about how a dream too big became a dream come true. I want to talk about the village of caring individuals that invested in me and wrapped their arms around me and others in my community, which has enabled me to stand where I am today. I come from an environment where big dreams can easily die from malnourishment. My parents divorced after a marriage of 9 years, and my life quickly changed from an environment rich in academic and social mobility opportunities to an environment with a drastic scarcity of opportunities. I shared a bed with my mother and siblings until I was in the 8th grade in a very small room in my grandmother's already overcrowded house. There was no thermostat, so if it was cold, we turned on the stove burners or the oven to warm the house. When there wasn't enough room on the couch and people are already sleeping forward to a bed, that means that someone has to grab those blankets out of the closet and make themselves something we called a pallet to sleep on the floor. When the hot water is turned off and the bathtub is blocked up, you have to walk outside, fill up a bucket of water, bring that bucket of water back in the house, boil some of that water, then take something that we called a bucket bath. It was very humbling. I tell these stories to paint a picture of what contemporary American poverty can look like for many youth and many citizens in our forgotten silos. I am certain that my experiences were not that distinct from that of individuals in Northeast Oklahoma City. The educational opportunities afforded to us back home were characterized by a scarcity of resources and an overall sentiment of hopelessness. One of the first discussions that I had on the elementary school playground at recess set the tone for the type of inequalities that existed in this community. I'll never forget this discussion. I was 6 years old, and the young boys that were standing beside me were also 6 years old. We were standing there waiting to decide what game we wanted to play for recess, and one young man popped off the discussion. He said, "One day, when I go to prison, I'm going to become a Crip automatically." And then the next young man followed suit. He said, "One day, when I go to prison, I'm going to pretend to be religious. I heard that they won't mess with you if you're religious." I stood there, and as it came my turn to say what I would do one day when I went to prison, I didn't know what to say. Up to that point in my life, I had never envisioned going to prison or anything like that. None of that was on my horizon. But the students had already envisioned what they would do when they went to prison one day, but they were only speaking their reality. Their expectations were shaped by a stark reality that had very little to do with them. They knew the expectations that society unfairly hoisted upon them at an early age, but they had no idea why this was so. Gang membership and crime more broadly was not the cause of these problems, but rather the effect of being in an under-resourced area. It's sad to admit it, it's shameful, but I've never seen a Montessori school for young black boys. I've never come across a Kumon Mathematics Center in an under-resourced or economically depressed area. Even though we know that mentorship programs and early childhood education programs and programs such as those at the Lynn Institute are the greatest tools that we have to fight gang membership and incarceration, there's still a paucity of these opportunities. On that playground in first grade, all he knew was that one day when he went to prison, he was going to become a Crip automatically. But my mom knew differently. She set an expectation that, baby, even though we may live in the hood does not have to live in us. Her encouragement, along with other members in my community, helped me achieve despite the obstacles that had been set before me. I went on to graduate from Texas Christian University, where I majored in economics and minored in sociology. In 2017, I won the coveted Rhodes Scholarship, which enabled me to study at the University of Oxford in England for 2 years, where I earned my master's degree. Last year was amazing. I spent my birthday last year sitting in front of Michael Strahan on Good Morning America in Times Square, New York, speaking about my first book, A Dream Too Big, the story of an improbable journey from Compton to Oxford. This year has been phenomenal as well. Despite everything that's going on, I've spent this year deciding that I would become a college professor, and I had very tough decisions to make this year after I was admitted to PhD programs in sociology by Harvard University, University of Pennsylvania, Brown University, Northwestern University, Berkeley, and many others. Beginning fall of 2020, I will be a doctoral student in sociology at Stanford University, researching gang membership and policy. Now, I speak of all these things not to bring attention to myself or to give myself a pat on the back, but to bring attention to the community that contributed to me being where I am today. I would do you a disservice today if I only credited myself for these accomplishments. There are 2 key African proverbs that are often cited when people talk about the importance of community. The more common one is, it takes a village to raise a child. And don't get me wrong, this is a very important quote. But the lesser known quote is, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And what has enabled me to go so far is my community. So other than God and my family, I would like to honor those that have interceded on my behalf. I have to thank Miss Blanchard. We had a old lady on my street, Miss Blanchard. Every time you would ride your bicycle across her lawn, she would come out and she would yell. Sometimes she would come out with that broom. And Miss Blanchard would say, "Get off my grass." But that community member taught me the importance of boundaries. I have to thank New Neighbor. We had a new neighbor that lived next to us. I never learned this gentleman's name. He was such a bright, smiling person. And every single day he would get out there, he would manicure his lawn. He would make sure that his planter was spectacular. He would ensure that every little detail about his house was beautiful and was on point. And he would organize his garage. From watching him every single day, that community member taught me to take pride in the little things, to take pride in the things that are mine. And also, he taught me organizational skills. I had to thank the mailman on my street. He would come deliver that mail approximately at 3:14 p.m. almost every single day. It was crazy. But from watching him every single day show up on time, that's where I learned the value of punctuality. I had to thank Mrs. Walters at Dotson Middle School. I must admit, when I was a 6th grader, I was one of the worst students. I had D's, I was failing many classes. And the reason why is that when I would walk to school, or I would take the bus rather, oftentimes I would leave my backpack at home or toss it in a bush, because it would weigh me down if I had to run, if I had to hop a fence, or if I had to defend myself in an environment such as mine. So oftentimes I didn't even bring my backpack at all. But I had a teacher, Mrs. Walters. She pulled me aside after class one day, an 11-year-old boy, and she said, "I see great things in you. You are not destined to be in prison. You are not destined to be a gang member. I see a leader in you, but it will require that you bring your backpack to school. So just from that one person that wasn't even from my community, a woman that didn't even look like me, wasn't from my same background, from her taking the time to care about me, it made me care about myself. And I thank Ms. Walters for being a community member that taught me to care about myself and my education. I had to thank Coach Wadood, Coach Johnson, and Coach Snoop Dogg. Yes, the rapper Snoop Dogg. I played in the Snoop Dogg Youth Football League as a child. And one thing that I learned is that I saw African American men, Latino men, even white men that would go and work middle class jobs, will work blue collar jobs every single day, will work themselves to the bone. But at nighttime, every single night during the week, they will go out there and they will coach youth football. That's where I learned to be a man of my community. So I think about the community that has went into developing the man that I am today. Community is incredibly important to building dreams. For the adults who have the opportunity to guide and to mentor our youth. Those that have the opportunity to help struggling parents. Those that have the opportunity to help those that are battling issues of health and well-being. And to contribute to the overall mission of the Lynn Institute. I thank you. I want you to understand the importance of all your contributions, your financial contributions, your time contributions. I never want you to lose sight of the role that you are playing in the building of this community and the facilitation of dreams. I urge you to continue this very important work while keeping in mind that there are people that are counting on you. People that you have met before, people that you will soon meet, and people that you may never meet. You may never know how you have positively impacted their life. You will be able to help people just like a young myself, a young me. And with a little bit of care and help, you can help people make a dream too big become a dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you, Caylin. You are going to change the world. And now it's time to introduce you to our esteemed Lynn Institute 2020 Legacy Award recipients. The Lynn Institute Legacy Award honors Oklahomans, individuals and organizations who reflect Lynn's highest values and are recognized for their devoted support of those in need, visionary leadership, wisdom, spirit of collaboration, and steadfast dedication to making a difference that will outlast their lifetimes. Our 2020 Lynn Institute Legacy Award recipients are Dr. Tom Lynn, Mr. Lee Roland, and Mrs. Mo Anderson. Dr. Tom Lynn graduated from the University of Oklahoma College of Medicine. Following postgraduate training at Barnes Hospital and the National Heart Institute, he served as Chief Resident of Medicine at University Hospital in Oklahoma City. He joined the faculty of the OU College of Medicine in 1961, where he was professor of both medicine and of preventative medicine. He was named chair of the department and later was selected dean of the College of Medicine of the University of Oklahoma in 1974. In 1980, Dr. Lynn became vice president for medical and scientific affairs at Baptist Medical Center in Oklahoma, now Integris. In 1997, the program that he had developed and nurtured and grew at Baptist was transitioned into a separate nonprofit research institute named in honor of our own Dr. Lynn. He served on the board of directors of the Lynn Institute for more than 15 years. He was an integral part of the planning team that helped the Lynn Institute set and achieve our new course of work to help families in vulnerable populations. With every milestone achieved, we are thankful for his leadership and his vision. It is with great appreciation that we present Dr. Tom Lynn, the Lynn Institute 2020 Legacy Award.
I feel good about being a part of this at one time. I no longer am, but I applaud what the Institute is doing. And I'm glad for the people there. The Institute's been going for better than 25 years now. And part of that time I've been on the inside as a member of the board and part as a interested observer. During this time, I've seen employees, very competent employees, working day after day. I've seen management working. I've seen volunteer board members assisting management with decisions. And this has been, in my opinion, a good review of people. They're admirable in my opinion. The whole thing is admirable. Admirable may not be the right word. Respected may be a better word. Their effort demands respect. And you know, when people whom I respect offer me an award, it means something. And so my ego's a little boosted. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn, for your leadership and your vision. Mr. Lee Roland is a motivational speaker, a school, church, and business consultant, a pastor in the parish in Oklahoma City's Plaza District, and an adjunct professor of sociology at Southern Nazarene University, teaching future school administrators how to truly leave no child behind. Over his celebrated career, Lee served in the Oklahoma City Public Schools as well as the Putnam City School District. His most gratifying time in his 30-year career as an educator were his last 12 years as the proud principal of Two Lakes Elementary, a high poverty, high diversity, and once failing school by every significant indicator that was completely turned around under his leadership. Two Lakes today is among Oklahoma's finest schools. Lee presents at conferences across the country, effectively addressing diversity, poverty efficacy, and motivation. As a Northeast Oklahoma City resident himself, Lee has served on the Healthy Community Collaborative since 2016, shining a light on the needs of the community he loves so very dearly. He also works with the Lynn Institute on justice, equity, and diversity initiatives. His involvement, sound counsel, and leadership have been invaluable. We are so proud to be able to present the Lynn Institute 2020 Legacy Award to Mr. Lee Roland.
The Lynn Institute recognizing me is a tremendous honor. We don't do what we do because of recognition. However, it is nice for someone to say, pat you on the back and say, hey, well done. I see what you're doing. And I just want to encourage you. And I think that's one of the biggest things this award does to me, is it encourages me to keep on keeping on. The legacy I'd like to see others take from this is like, I'm not going to be a spectator. I'm going to be myself, a participator in terms of trying to make things better for those who are to come. We don't have an option here. To whom much is given, much is required. And so we have to do our best collectively to leave the circumstances, leave our community better than the way we found it. The Northeast community, I would say the pride of the East Side, is a beautiful place. And I think it's shameful that too many of our citizens don't know about the history of Northeast Oklahoma City. They don't know about the current status of the Northeast community. What we do know, there is a tremendous gap in terms of resources, in terms of beautification efforts, in terms of us giving our attention to that community. So it is my prayer that others will join hands with the Lynn Institute and others who are trying to do something to make sure that the Northeast community is a part of the renovation, in part of the innovation that needs to take place here collectively in Oklahoma City. Please, please, please If I say it 3 times, I'm real serious. Please support us as we try to support the citizens of the Northeast community. Thank you.
Lee, it is a privilege to know and to work with you. Thank you for all you do to help others. Celebrating her 83rd birthday in 2020, Mo Anderson is the heart and truly beloved leader of Keller Williams Realty. Strong, principled, and compassionate, Mo's personal integrity and unending drive are touchstones that have made Keller Williams Realty one of the most successful franchises in real estate history. Mo Anderson is the author of A Joy-Filled Life, Lessons of a Tenant Farmer's Daughter Who Became a CEO. She speaks frequently about the 7 pillars of a joy-filled life, which includes the lessons Mo learned over her lifetime. A supporter of the Lynn Institute's work, Mo has been a strong advocate for Count Me In for Kids and for the collaborative effort to take care of Oklahoma's children and their families. When she heard about our work in Northeast Oklahoma City, it resonated with her. Having been raised by parents who were tenant farmers, she understands what it is like to grow up in poverty and what can happen without champions who come alongside to make a difference. In every way, Mo Anderson is committed to leaving a legacy. Today, we are proud to present the Lynn Institute 2020 Legacy Award to our friend and to a role model to many, Mo Anderson.
It is with deep emotion and much gratitude to you that I accept this honor because poverty played a role in my life as a child. And I remember when you first spoke to me about the Lynn Institute, and I was deeply shaken when you shared with me that so many children in Oklahoma City live without food to eat. And every other week you deliver 40,000 pounds of fresh produce to 600 families that live only 7 miles from my home. I remember back in 2012 when you informed me that 10,000 kids, 10,000 kids needed a foster home, and actually some of them were totally homeless. Thank you so much for bringing that number down. We're not there yet, but boy, you've made progress. But what you do in Northeast Oklahoma City is beyond amazing, because children born in that geographical area have an 18-year shorter life expectancy than children who are born outside of that area. And 65% of the children under 5 years old are living in poverty, and only 20% of the residents there even have a car. Now, what do we need to do? Everyone watching this event, we must be involved, because Oklahoma City has a higher standard for our little children than this. Now, when you decide what you're going to do, my prayer for you is that your effort will be blessed 100-fold by our God above for what you do. So thank you so much.
Mo, thank you so very much. Your words are so impactful. Thank you for challenging us. Thank you for all you have done, and thank you for being the inspiration to us all. I know that you will all agree with me that these 2020 award recipients are very, very deserving of this honor. We hope you have enjoyed the Lynn Institute Legacy virtual event as much as we have enjoyed sharing our story with you. I want to take one last opportunity to thank our generous sponsors, without whom this event would not have been possible. We appreciate you more than words can express. We also want to remind you that you can come alongside the Lynn Institute in a number of different ways, whether building friendships or bridging relationships, distributing food, offering health information, or attending collaborative meetings. We welcome you to join us. None of what we do happens without the financial support of people just like you. Every donation, large or small, makes a difference. What will your legacy be? Will you consider helping us with this work? To contribute, simply go to www.lynninstitute.org. Again, thank you for joining us. We truly are stronger together.